We've learned so much over these last 16 years. This is our nation's longest period of war. And one of the very important aspects of this experience really has to do with understanding moral injury.
What is happening?
It would have,
Hi, baby girl.
Josh is saying on to try the cranberry sauce.
That's me in Mosul. We did a lot of raids and house-to-house searches and that kind of thing. This is around Christmas time. We were on the Syrian border. My buddy Weston and Duran and Pierce, who was killed. I had to watch Kirkland, our senior line medic, pull him out and everything and put him in the body bag. So that was that sucked.
If anyone's ever had a really seriously broken heart, it is a searing internal pain that really makes you think you want to die. And that's the experience of moral injury. But it comes from losing your sense of who you are as a good person, or from experiencing something, witnessing something, or hearing about something that you can't make meaning of, you cannot take it in, and it wrecks your sense of the world.
Good job.
And I'm going to get some.
You want to try this special kind of cranberry sauce from Vietnamese?
He called me, and he had just been there for about maybe a month, and I could hear his voice cracking, and he said, "Mom," he goes, "I'm worried about something." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Will you think less of me when I have to kill someone?" And I'm like, "No, because someone else is making you do that, and unfortunately it's you or them." But so, I mean, sent that sweet little boy into that. And I still don't know what went down, because he won't tell me. And that's what worries me, because I know there's still that sweet person in there who really can't deal with some of the things he probably did.
War damages the people who participate in it, and especially killing. That the act of killing, even in a just war, even when that killing is legally justified, exacts a cost on the killer.
I think most people have had that experience, especially at close range, will tell you that you have a sense down to your bones that you're going to have to answer for what you've just done to something, to someone, to your higher power. And if the war lacks a context, if it's unclear what your mission is, that can be a hell of a burden to bear.
The way we are engaging in war as a nation now is unprecedented. We have never been at war this long, in this many different ways, with this small a percentage of the American people. We essentially have a warrior class.
I didn't really see much of what I could do here on the island, so I figured I might as well join the military. It was kind of the only option, I guess, at that time that I had.
You may see stuff in the movies that are like horrific and gory, but when you see it in real life, it just makes you stop and think of humanity, you know? Like, how could this happen?
When it comes to trying to get help, it's a difficult task at times to ask somebody, because you're seen as, oh, you're a soldier, you know, you should be able to handle it, anything that's thrown your way. But in truth, we're human as well. We have our breaking points.
What does it mean for a human being to endure more days of exposure to fear, threat, loss, trauma than any other generation of veterans in our nation's history?
After seeing what I've seen being deployed, it's hard to, I guess, get back to being normal. Your experience changed you. And it's hard to get help being here because we're so remote.
It would help if we had an actual doctor on island.
In the last couple of years, we have lost a couple of our veterans to suicide. You know, even one suicide, especially in such a small community, it really, and everybody feels it. It affects the whole community.
After 2 deployments, I saw and recognized that there were too few people in Washington who had ever served, who had any idea themselves the cost of war and who was paying the price. And as we've gone through this post 9/11 era of veterans, we see fewer and fewer people in the country who have any idea beyond saying thank you to veterans on Veterans Day or maybe catching a news clip here or there. There's not a connection.
There is no engagement from the general public about what we're doing. Because Americans say, man, I'm not sure I agree with what's going on in Afghanistan. I don't know if we should be spending a lot of money there. But you know what? All those guys and gals in uniform, they're willing to go fight and die for it. So if they're cool with it, I've got to respect them. I'm not going to get involved. That is an abdication of citizenship. It's essentially turning this force of young men and women into mercenaries. And when you do that, you cut that cord that connects a military to society.
When you sign up for the military, you're engaging in a massive act of faith in your neighbors, the good judgment of your neighbors and the functioning of our democracy. They choose when you face that awful thing of battle, not you. If these young people don't know why they're going where they're going or why they're being asked to do what they do, if the answers aren't clear, it's a terrible burden for them to have to bear for the rest of their lives, and it will lead to a lot of questions.
After you're done eating, do you want to go to Pro with Mama? What do you say? After I'm done eating, do you? I don't say my fingers.
I just found out that he was drinking every day and that he was laying on our floor in our house just wanting to kill himself. And the only thing that stopped him was the fact that I called him every day wondering how he was doing.
I mean, I'm just trying to find things that help. I can't make myself not have nightmares. So I'm just trying to find ways to deal better and kind of get through things.
Congressman Sablan, one of his staffers, had gone to see Almost Sunrise at a film festival, and she brought it back to him and said, look, I think this is something that can help our veterans on the island.
I did start to do more research about Project Welcome Home Troops, and we were just talking about it with folks in the office about just how cool would it be to have both the film and the workshop as part of a unified program, I guess, that veterans and their families could participate in.
It was veterans who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and were just hurting a lot because they really hadn't had any relief, any services that helped them. This was so new to them. Yoga, meditation, none of them had ever experienced anything like that.
After doing the exercises that they showed us, I actually ended up sleeping like a baby. For the first time in a while, I was able to sleep through the night.
We had a lot of issues in the beginning talking about the things that we have experienced, even though we deployed together. Finally, everything that was pent up and pushed down and held in was coming out. We were able to move forward as a unit.
Those 5 days, it really felt like there was this bond that was forming among all of us.
And that's another key component, is reconnecting to other people that you trust to share these painful experiences with.
Throughout history, it's been very common that societies had ways of formally welcoming home warriors who they view as tainted until they had gone through some kind of a ceremony of acceptance of forgiveness. We don't have that. We need something like that.
We have an obligation to be creative in how we approach big problems in our country. And so people can't be turned off by saying, I've never heard of that. They're doing breathing. They think breathing's going to help these vets. And the answer is yes, it is.
So this is the value in doing some sort of practice that removes the stress on a regular basis.
When he came home from the meditation thing, I mean, my kids were tired and, it was almost bedtime and he didn't snap. He was just like, okay, come on, it's bedtime. And what you would usually trigger him to kind of get irritated didn't. So it definitely has been something that has changed him.
Now, some are old and some are new. Some are red and some are blue. Some are fuzzy and some are not. Hey, love you. See you in the morning, okay? For a long time, I just felt like I wasn't a very good person. So when he was talking about like finding your real inner self and like that you are a nice and happy and joyful person, to like experience that when we did the actual meditation, like it's nice. Like it's nice to know that that stuff is still in me, like it's not dead.
I don't think you ever get over moral injury. You figure out how to live with it in a way that it doesn't control your life.
What has happened in this country over the last decade and a half is in my opinion, outrageous. We can't talk about moral injury because we're not even talking about injury or the morality of war or why our country goes to war or what that means. I mean, the American public has sent 2.5 million people off to a place they don't understand, to do something they're not ready to accept, to come home to a country that's not prepared.
As a country, we live with profound moral injury in the sense of being betrayed by institutions we should have been able to trust.
If you're not critical of the military, then you don't respect it. If you are not critical of our foreign policy, you don't understand it. And if you're not any of those things, then you're failing the fundamental obligations of citizenship. And that's what's missing, right? That's why we have moral injury, is because we have lost any idea of what citizenship means when it comes to sending young men overseas to fight and die on the nation's behalf.